Imagine for a moment that your life ends tonight. The last breath, the final heartbeat, the curtain closing, permanently. How does that thought make you feel? Do you flinch at the idea? Do you recoil with dread? Or perhaps you wonder what happens next, heaven, hell, nothingness? For most of us, the thought of death conjures fear, a visceral, deep-seated fear rooted in uncertainty and finality. But what if this fear is misplaced? What if the ancient philosopher Epicurus was right when he said, "Death is nothing to us"? Can we really unlearn our fear of death? And should we even try? Welcome to The Unfolding Journey, the channel where we explore the timeless questions of life, meaning, philosophy, and existence. Here, we walk the winding paths of wisdom, both ancient and modern, to unfold the mysteries that shape who we are. If you're someone who enjoys deep thought, quiet reflection, and big questions, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Who is Epicurus? Epicurus was a Greek philosopher who lived from 341 to 270 BCE. Often misunderstood and misrepresented, his name has been wrongly associated with hedonism in the gluttonous or indulgent sense. But Epicurus's philosophy was deeply ethical, concerned with how we can live a life of peace, free from pain and fear, especially the fear of death. At the heart of his teaching was this bold claim: death should not be feared. But what does he mean by that? And how can such a claim even make sense? In his letter to Municius, Epicurus presents his now famous argument: death is nothing to us, for what has disintegrated has no sensation, and what has no sensation is nothing to us. This line may seem simple at first glance, but it carries profound philosophical weight. Let's unpack it. Epicurus was a materialist. He believed everything, including the soul, is made up of atoms. At death, the atoms disperse, and with them, our consciousness. There is no afterlife, no continuation of the soul, no heaven or hell. And if that's true, then death is not an experience at all. It's the end of all experiences. We won't be around to feel pain, regret, or suffering, or anything for that matter. The logical flow of the argument. Epicurus's argument follows a clean logical structure. All good and bad experiences require consciousness. Death is the cessation of consciousness. Therefore, death cannot be good or bad for us. So we should not fear it. It's elegant and stark. If you're not around to experience death, then it cannot harm you. The fear, then, must be irrational. This concept is echoed in modern times by thinkers like Mark Twain, who famously said, "I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it." If Epicurus's reasoning is sound, why does the fear of death persist so strongly? There are several possible answers. Fear of the unknown. Most people don't believe with certainty what happens after death. Even if someone claims to accept oblivion, emotionally they might still struggle with the idea of non-being. Fear of loss. Death means losing everything: our identity, our loved ones, our hopes and dreams. It's hard to accept the finality of that loss. Fear of unfinished life. Some fear death because they haven't yet lived fully. There's still so much to do, to become, to experience. Fear of the process, not the state. Many aren't afraid of being dead but of dying, the pain, the decline, the helplessness. Epicurus would argue that many of these fears are based on misunderstandings or misplaced attachments. He encourages us to distinguish between natural desires and empty fears. Epicurus wasn't just stating a philosophical position. He was offering therapy for the soul. He believed that the fear of death causes unnecessary anxiety, leading us to chase immortality through fame, fortune, or even delusions of the afterlife. Instead, Epicurus offered these practical remedies. Pursue a life of simple pleasures. Not excess, but tranquility, ataraxia, and the absence of pain, aponia. A quiet life is often the happiest. Reflect often on mortality. Thinking about death regularly, not to dwell in morbidity, but to become familiar with the idea, helps reduce its sting. Live in the present. Fear of death steals the joy of the moment. By focusing on now, we make death irrelevant. Cultivate friendship and philosophy. Epicurus believed good friends and honest philosophical inquiry were keys to happiness. Facing death with others or through reflective thinking can be empowering. While Epicurus's argument is compelling, not everyone agrees. Some philosophers argue that death harms us not by presence, but by what it deprives us of, the so-called deprivation theory. Death may not be experienced, but it robs us of the future we could have had. Thomas Nagel, a 20th century philosopher, argues exactly this. Even if we don't feel death, it still affects us by truncating our existence. Moreover, existentialists like Heidegger suggest that facing death authentically is essential for living a meaningful life. The fear of death, in their view, is a gateway to living more fully, not something to eliminate but to integrate. Even religious traditions propose their own models. For many, fear of death is tied to moral reckoning, karmic consequences, or spiritual purification. So while Epicurus's approach is clean and freeing, it may not be the whole story. The honest answer is this: fear of death is natural, but it's not necessarily rational. And Epicurus gives us tools to reduce, even eliminate, its grip on us. He teaches that we shouldn't live in fear of the inevitable. Instead, we should craft lives so rich and peaceful that, when death comes, we can greet it with calm, not because we welcome it, but because we no longer fear it. To live without fear of death is to live with greater joy, clarity, and purpose. What if death isn't the enemy, but the mirror that reflects the beauty of life? As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Death is our friend, precisely because it brings us into absolute and passionate presence with all that is here." Perhaps, in the end, it's not about defeating death, but making peace with it. And maybe that's what Epicurus wanted all along. Thank you for watching this exploration into Epicurus and the fear of death. If you found this video meaningful or thought-provoking, consider subscribing to The Unfolding Journey. We dive deep into philosophy, psychology, and the human condition, one timeless question at a time. Cycle subscribe and join our growing community of seekers and thinkers. Brain, leave a comment below. Do you fear death? Why or why not? Thumbs up, don't forget to like the video if it sparked something in you. Until next time, keep unfolding the journey.